Hey everybody, this is Marcia from Everything Wine and More. Thanks for joining us here today. It is June and we are focusing our virtual tastings on some Canadian wineries and some Canadian winemakers. So we're really excited to be bringing you some of these focus on these amazing wineries. We're doing two from the Okanagan and one out in Ontario. And our first one today, we're featuring Summerhill, and I am joined today by Michael Alexander, the winemaker at Summerhill. Thank you for joining us today, Michael.
Well, thank you for having me. This is always exciting and always fun. Any excuse to open wine in the middle of the day.
Right? Yeah, I mean, it's great. So how's the weather there right now?
It's beautiful. We hit a blistering 36 yesterday. It's supposed to cool down today to about 34, 32. So it's the hottest spring I've ever seen. So the vines are loving it. They're growing faster than I've ever seen, and it's beautiful and sunny and absolutely amazing here.
All right, fantastic. Well, we're not that hot, but we did reach, I think, 28 degrees yesterday. So we're, you know, for us, that's really good.
That's a little more comfortable than 36. So
yeah, that's true. So let's talk about you first. How long have you been a winemaker?
I've officially been the winemaker here for about 2 years, 2.5 years, I guess now. I've been in the cellar since 2013. And then before coming down to the cellar, I worked up in the wine shop. And so I've been with Summerhill for about 12.5 years now. So I've definitely done a lot of growing up here. When I first started, I had short hair. I was going to be an accountant. And then I was bitten by the organic wine bug. And now I have long hair and don't crunch a lot of numbers. So
all right,
it seems to have worked out.
Yeah. So did you always want to, eventually become a winemaker?
I didn't actually. I took a wine course in Calgary where I grew up, hoping to help my accounting career. Figured that if I knew about wine, I might get invited to some meetings I probably shouldn't be at. And I just fell in love. Moved out here, sent out one resume, said if I get a job, I'll move to Kelowna. If not, I'll stay in Calgary. Got the job at Summerhill, and just over my career, I've tried a couple different things, but winemaking is definitely where I belong in the world.
Fantastic. That's a really cool story. I mean, you hear all of these winemakers who, went to these enology schools and all of these things, and here you just sort of worked your way up to it. So that's amazing.
Yeah, I did a little stint out at Niagara College for their winemaking program, just to get some of the science background. But I think there's a lot of value in just getting dirty and getting wet and bringing it out and learning kind of on the job. Yeah,
fantastic. Well, we'll have to have a conversation after this because, I have a little bit of experience in a winery too, just as an intern. So
okay, cool.
We'll have some conversations after this video is over. But for now, and Summerhill, let's talk about Summerhill. So they have a long history in the valley. So how long have they been there for?
So our proprietor, Stephen Sipes, bought the property in, I think, 86. Moved his family from New York. Stephen was a real estate developer in Manhattan, basically built Westchester County. And he was looking to farm, looking for a different pace of life. He was in his 40s and ready to retire, and decided to make wine somewhere along the way. That seemed like a great idea. So our first commercial vintage was 1991. So I guess that's 30 years this year. This September will be our 30th anniversary of commercially producing wine.
Nice.
We've been organic from day one. It's been really important to us that our vineyard's always been certified organic. It wasn't until about 2007 that the government put out organic winemaking standards. So as soon as we had standards, we were, of course, certified organic. And then in 2014, we started the conversion to biodynamic at our vineyard. And so it's been important for us since day one that we really take care of the land and leave it better than we found it. So 30 years on, we spend a lot of time working on organics and biodynamics.
Yeah. So 30 years is pretty old by Canadian wine standards, for sure.
For sure. I think we were the 13th winery in the Okanagan. So it was definitely a much smaller industry back then. I obviously wasn't in it, but in talking with the people who were, it was a very different place back then.
Yeah. So this business of organics, right? So I had the opportunity to talk about organics with an Argentinian winery, but now we have this whole beast called biodynamics. So there's always this conversation that If a wine is biodynamic, is it organic? I think that you could say that, but you can't say if a wine is organic, it's biodynamic.
Correct. Yeah. So biodynamics has its own standards, and it's based on the teachings of a guy named Rudolf Steiner, who also started the Waldorf School. So there's a bunch of preps that we have to do out in the vineyard with our compost program, with our spray program. And there's different rules in the cellar. We're not allowed to add any nutrient. We're not allowed to add any yeast or any fermentation tannins. And so in Canada, under Demeter BC, under Demeter Canada, to be biodynamic, you first have to become certified organic. So your vineyard has to be organic. But then we take it one step forward. If I could talk today, take it one step forward or farther, and we get the biodynamic certification. So we do different preps that people hear about all the time, like we bury the manure of a lactating cow into a horn and bury it underground for a year.
Okay.
We put white oak bark into a skull and put it in a stream and let it sit for about a year. And then we dig them out, we put them into water, and we mix them into our compost or spray them out in our vineyard. And the idea is they create a lot of microbes that help our soil, that help our biodiversity, that help the plants, that help the compost, help the decomposition. We've got a large portion of our vineyard, about 10 acres, that's just left as a wildlife sanctuary. So organics is all about not spraying synthetic chemicals. Biodynamics takes that a little bit farther and looks at the farm as an ecosystem, and how do we create an ecosystem with lots of life within our farm. We're just a small part of the universe and a small part of the cosmos. And so we want to look at our farm in a bigger picture, and how do we keep it as self-sufficient as possible.
So what does Demeter mean then?
Demeter is the certifying body. I'm not sure exactly what it means. It's based out of Germany. So there's an international standard for biodynamic winemaking, and then they license it out to Demeter Canada. So,
okay. All right. Because I see that on labels and I'm like, I don't even know what this means. So
yeah, so it's just like you'll also notice on lots of our wines, they've got a little PAX logo, or the Pacific Agricultural Certification Society. So that's our governing body who certifies our wines as organic, where Demeter's the governing body that certifies them as biodynamic.
Okay. Okay. So is there anything, like, other than, the manure and the horn, is there anything else that you do to the soil? Like, do you plant cover crops, like for little bugs and things to grow in between the rows, or anything like that?
Yeah, we do. We obviously don't till, because we don't want to disturb the microbes in the soil. We spend a lot of time cover cropping. We've got lots of beautiful vetches out there to help fix nitrogen and rebuild nitrogen and create biodiversity. We're doing lots of experiments, growing rosemary under vines to see if it'll have an effect on the vines. We get a lot of beautiful wild asparagus. So we actually go out and we wildcraft and pick all the wild asparagus and serve it in our bistro. We've got chickens on site that are part of the biodynamic program. So it's more than just grape growing here. We're about an 80-acre farm, and we try and pack in as much as we can and create as much biodiversity within our farm as absolutely possible.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So, and I've also heard that you sort of take care of some of the vineyards that are in close proximity to you as well, as to maintain that organic and that biodynamic structure. You're not just looking after your own land and your own vines, but others sort of on the perimeter.
Yeah, exactly. So with organics, if you have a farm next to you, there's a certain window or certain section of your farm that you can't call certified organic in case there's overspray from farms next door that aren't organic. It's the buffer zone.
Yeah.
And so to make sure we don't have to worry about that and to spread organics and do the best for the valley that we can, if any of our neighbors have farms and grow vines, so we're happy to take care of them for them and grow them organically and biodynamically, so that we can ensure that everything in our little area of the world is certified organic. Nice.
Yeah. So do they appreciate that?
I think they do until the tractor's out there at 3 a.m. But other than that, I think they're pretty happy we grow organically.
Okay, that's really great. So how many labels does Summerhill have?
Well, that's a good question. I would say we're probably close to about 40 right now.
Wow.
It changes every year. We're pretty lucky that when the fruit allows, we can do single vineyards and single varietals.
Nice.
So it fluctuates every year, but yeah, I'd say we're in that 30 to 40 range right now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I had no idea. I had no idea there was that many. So that's really great. So let's talk about the pyramid for a moment. So the pyramid shape, this whole idea of the pyramid, and I mean, it's definitely an icon in the valley, but what is it has a purpose. So what is the purpose?
It does. So the pyramid is our wine cellar. So all of our wines go into the pyramid for about 30 days to get over bottle shock and to relax.
Yeah.
So pyramids are similar to archways that are considered sacred geometric shapes that become beautiful buildings to allow liquids to rest. And so all of our wines go into the pyramid to kind of clarify, to get over bottle shock, and to come into their own. So we also do solstice parties up there when COVID isn't in the picture. We've got new moon parties, equinoxes. So it's become a community gathering point for a lot of lunar and solar events. And so it is primarily a cellar for our wines, but thanks to the support of the community, it's become a lot more than that.
Yeah, cool. So are things starting to open up again out there?
They are, yeah. We just got the new regulations out and things are starting to open up. Looks like June 15th is going to be another big day for us where there's a little bit more travel. So it's going to be an interesting summer, I think, for everybody, but we're pretty happy that with the vaccine rollout and with everybody following the rules that we're starting to open up again.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's good. Same here. We might be a little bit behind you guys, but we're all on the right track anyway. So that's
what counts.
Always good news. Yeah.
We're all making progress, so there's good news ahead.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right. So we're gonna go red Rose Riesling, if that's okay with you.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna go a little different pattern here. So I had the opportunity to taste this last week. So 2011, we don't often see this, a vintage, this age of Canadian wine. I mean, we're talking, a 10-year-old Cabernet Franc from the valley. So talk about, the wine, the Noville Farm, like what all this means for us here.
Yeah, so Noville Farm is a farm down in Okanagan Falls, owned by the Tan family. The woman who bought the property, Doris Tan, is actually from Edmonton.
Okay.
She fell in love with it. It sits right up on the bluff and overlooks the lake. It may actually be one of the prettiest spots in the entire Okanagan. And we've got a lot of pretty spots. We're pretty fortunate. And so in 2011, it was a beautiful year. We had a great crop. But one of the things that we do here is that we make vegan wines. So we don't add any fining agents that come from animal products, no fish bladder, no egg whites, no milk. And a lot of those fining agents help pull out a lot of the harsher tannins. So instead what we do is we put it into neutral oak barrels and we just let it sit and let Mother Nature and time take care of it. So this was a wine that spent a little bit longer in oak to help round it out and soften it. And the result is it's created a beautiful Cab Franc that ages amazingly well. Cab Franc here in the Okanagan has a beautiful acid, beautiful fruit structure, beautiful minerality. And so we find that the wines easily age for 10, 15 years. And so Noville Farm was just a small block that we had, a small vineyard that showed fruit that was meant to age and meant to stand the test of time. And so we decided to do a single vineyard bottling of it just to celebrate Mrs. Tan's work and kind of the vintage and what the fruit showed up as.
So are you holding this back? So this is current vintage?
That's current vintage. We're actually all sold out at the winery. And so I had to get our warehouse team to hunt down a bottle for me today. So if it is something you like, I recommend picking it all up because it's not something we do every year. And so I don't know if or when there'll be another one.
Yeah.
But there's a few stores like yours that still have it. But like I said, we don't even have it here at the winery.
Yeah, well, we just got it in, so I'm hoping this video will sort of, get people really interested in. I mean, Summerhill does well here anyway, but I'm hoping that with this video it'll just sort of give it another little extra boost. So
yeah. It's nice to be able to buy an already aged wine.
Yeah.
People always wonder what wine tastes like as it ages. They hear that, these old, beautiful wines from Bordeaux and Burgundy and wherever.
Yeah.
It's fun to be able to buy a wine to see if aged wine is what you like. It starts to lose a lot of that fruit. A lot of those mineral notes come through. And so some people love it, others don't. So it's a great opportunity to see what you think of aged Okanagan Cab Franc.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I think, and I was very bad. I forgot to write down prices, but I think this is about $46.99, something like that. But still, grab your bottles, people, because this is an amazing Cabernet Franc, and the Valley does a good job of Cab Franc. So, pick up a bottle of this, and you won't be sorry. So, fantastic! I can't wait. I'm going to buy a bottle too. Okay, and then moving on to the Alive lineup. So in the Alive lineup, there's a white, a red, and a rosé. So we currently on the shop on the shelf have the rosé and the white. So let's talk about this. So is the label sort of the an homage to the biodynamic and the organic that you're doing there?
It is for sure. So the Alive series all have similar labels, but they all have slightly different plants on them. So everything you see on the label is something that you would find in our vineyard. Okay. So if you were to walk around, some of it's natural, some of it we cover crop with, but the label really represents what is grown in our vineyard.
I can hear the bottling going on now in the back.
Sorry, I can go shut the door. Someone opened it on me. I will be right back in 10 seconds.
Okay. So the Alive Rosé organic wine we have on the shelf here, as well as the white. So if you're interested in this, a beautiful bottle, and we'll be talking about the rosé here in just a second. Here's Michael. So let's get to this. Look at this gorgeous color.
Yeah, so it's a blend of Cab Franc, Zweigelt, and Pinot Meunier. And so we took the Cab Franc and we sanied it. So the rest of it went into our table Cab Franc. And then the Zweigelt and Pinot Meunier are grown here in Kelowna. We actually have a vineyard just down the road from ours that also grows it, and we grow some on site. Where we destemmed it, we soaked it for about 24 hours, pressed it off, and then co-fermented it all together. So really meant to just be a super easy sipping, off dry fruit bomb. Lots of red fruits to it: strawberry, cherry, raspberry.
Totally. Oh, that's delightful. So, Michael, it is Zweigelt. The notes that I have here says it's Pinot Noir.
Previous vintages were Pinot Noir, but the 2020 is Zweigelt, Cab Franc, and Pinot Meunier. Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then this is the 2020. So this is fresh, which is what we always want in a rosé. So, yeah, definitely get those raspberry notes. Big cherry. Nice. You're right. It's nice and fruity. Beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful acid as well. So it is nice and food friendly. If you do crack a bottle before dinner, you can easily carry through the meal and into dessert. So if you're like me, a bottle doesn't last through the whole meal, but in theory it might.
Yeah. No, I understand that. So good with some, great summer wine by itself on the patio, or, put some, some shrimp on the bobby, a little shrimp kebab, any sort of, sauteed vegetables. I think this would be great with some barbecue chicken, maybe. Yeah. So very, very a food-friendly rosé. So I believe this one sits on the shelf for, I want to say between 19 and 22, something like that. And just remember, everybody, that these wines are on sale, 10% off until the end of next Thursday before we do our next recording. So pick up a bottle of your Alive Rosé and enjoy it while the weather is still hot. So yeah, yay. All right. And of course, Riesling. And Riesling is another one of those fabulous grapes that do really well in the Valley. And I'm always quite impressed with Canadian Riesling. And this, again, is your newer gray labels that indicate single vineyard, correct?
Correct, yes.
Yes. So this is the Summerhill Vineyard Riesling, 2017. So let's talk about this one.
Yeah, so what's really cool about this one is you'll notice on it, it has a little sticker that says it's biodynamic.
Yeah.
So we submitted the 2017 Gruner Veltliner and 2017 Riesling at the same time. So depending on who you ask, this is actually the first certified biodynamic wine in British Columbia.
Okay.
In BC winemaking history, which is super cool. So we let the fruit hang for a long time. We picked it kind of middle of October. We find that with Riesling, it preserves its acid really well, so we let it hang for a little bit longer to get these beautiful fruit notes. We did a spontaneous ferment on it. So we brought it in, we destemmed it, we pressed it, and then we put it in a stainless steel tank and just let Mother Nature do the rest. And so we got really cool notes that you don't often see in Riesling. A lot of fruit really popped out of it. And then we bottled it, and we let it sit for a little bit of time just to develop. So it's starting to show a little bit of those kind of petrol-y notes, a little bit of that minerality. It's got a little bit of like almost a gravel note to it. And with the biodynamic series that we do, all the wines come from our estate vineyard. So these plantings are 21B clones, and they were actually the first plantings of vinifera in the Okanagan. Dr. Becker from the Geisenheim came here in the 70s and did a couple test blocks. So we have one, St. Hubertus has one, and Tantalus has one. So these vines were planted in 1976 and 78. And so we get these beautiful old vine flavors that really only the three of us are able to do, because there are no vines in the valley that are as old or as well established as these ones are.
Okay, so how old are the vines? I'm sorry, did you say that?
That's 76, 78. There were two plantings, so what's that, 20, 40, 43 to 45 years.
Okay, and then you have, no, that's okay. So definitely older vines. So do you have newer vines as well that you're making other Rieslings with?
We do have some newer vines. Right now, we reserve those for our sparkling program, just until they're a little more established. But they're all 21B clone on site. We find that it grows really well here, and the complexity and depth that comes with it is unparalleled by other clones at our vineyard site. So we've actually taken cuttings from the old vines and propagated them to do some of the newer plantings.
Okay, because something I've always heard about Riesling, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that the younger the vines are, the sooner that you're going to get those petrol notes in the wines.
That's part of it. There's a lot that goes into those petrol notes. Sun exposure plays a big part of it. So how much canopy management you're doing and exposing the fruit, how much watering you're doing. So if you cut off the water at the wrong time, you get ATA or atypical aging. And yeah, the age of the vines also can affect how quickly those petrol notes show up. So there's a lot that goes into it, but definitely the age of the vine plays a big part of it.
Okay, yeah. That's really cool. All right. So 2017, you got a silver medal on this wine from the Lieutenant Governor's Wine Awards. So well done.
Thank you.
I don't know what that means, but well done. I always like the geek notes on the sheets. So 25.9 grams per liter of residual sugar with a total acidity of 9.8 grams per liter. So I love that balance, right? That sweetness and that really lovely high acidity, searing laser sharp acidity that really balances all that sweetness, which really isn't all that sweet, but you know, my mom.
No, with that much acid, it doesn't come across as sweet at all. I mean, compared to some wines, the numbers are a little bit higher, but with almost 10 grams of acid, if we let it go any drier, it would rip your face apart. You'd have to go to the dentist to get your enamel fixed. So we found that was kind of the sweet spot where it wasn't cloyingly sweet, but also wasn't so acidic that you didn't want to drink it.
A little bit of dried apricots, of course, that citrusy note in there, a green apple. Oh, it's yummy. Oh, and
it's still just a baby with that acid and with that residual sugar. it's easily got another 10 or 15 years of life to it. As you know, as it gets older, you're going to see less and less of that fruit, more of that petrol's going to come out, that diesel note, more of the minerality and non-fruit notes.
Yeah.
So I always tell people with Riesling, buy a case of it, taste it every 6 months to a year. When it hits that spot that you like, then drink it. If you like it young and fresh, drink it then. If you like it old and diesely, drink it then, because it goes through so many phases in life that there's no kind of sweet spot for it.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, right? Because you can have Riesling go through a dumb phase. And,
absolutely.
That's never a good thing to be opening your bottle of Riesling when it's going through a dumb phase. So Michael, going back to the Cab Franc for a second. So did you make this wine?
I did not. I was here to help finish it. So I was part of the cellar team that would have filtered it and bottled it. But I was not in the cellar at that time.
Okay, but you made these guys.
Yes. Yeah.
So are you always generally happy with the outcome of your wines?
Yeah, I mean they're all my children, and so I love them all in different ways. But we're quite lucky here. We work with about 13 different growers, and so we have a great relationship with them. Lots of long-term growers for us, so we know the fruit well. I spend lots of time hanging out in the vines, and so when it comes in, we kind of let the vintage speak to us and let the vineyard speak to us. And every vintage is a little bit different. We don't keep it exactly the same every year. We like to celebrate what Mother Nature gives us. And so I think what comes out really is a great representation of where it was grown, who it was grown by, and what Mother Nature gave us that year.
Yeah, fantastic. The Riesling is about 35, I think, on the shelf here at the store. So I think that's a great deal for a fantastic Riesling. So Riesling fans out there, please come and pick up your bottle of the Summerhill Vineyard Riesling, because it is fantastic. So actually this whole lineup has been fantastic, and it's been I've learned a lot from you today.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad.
So thank you for sharing your time with me again, and just for showing us how amazing wines can be as organic and biodynamic. I think there's maybe a little bit of a headspace blockage that people think, oh, these wines aren't going to be very good. If they're biodynamic and organic, they're not going to be very good. Well, no, there's a lot going on in these wines, flavor wise. So I think that that should speak for itself. I mean, the wine speaks for itself, for sure.
Well, thank you. It's very cool. And thank you for having me today. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I am going to send you an email.
Perfect. Sounds good. I look forward to it.
Okay. Have a great day, Michael. Thanks again for joining us.
You as well. Enjoy the heat.
Oh, yeah, you too.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.